Hello and welcome to another episode. This week I'm going to be doing sky replacement. I'm going to be using Photoshop to do it. Okay, so I was down in Kimmeridge again last week, and if you've been there you'll know that there's just a wealth of things to photograph there. And but what I hadn't photographed before was this pillbox, which you can see on the screen now. Quite an unusual one. I haven't seen one like it before. It's obviously migrated onto the beach at some point, and what I wanted to do was try and capture it in a way that was sort of sympathetic to its environment. So we've got the pillbox here, which was I guess a lookout into the bay, and we've got this old one up here which was built many years before it. And so I wanted to get both of those in my image, but I wanted to simplify things as much as possible, which, you know, as usual meant a long exposure to smooth out the sea, which I've done in this image. But as you can see, it's done crazy things to the clouds, and I'm really not a fan of those streaky, fluffy clouds. So I thought, well, I can do a sky replacement. I wouldn't normally do a sky replacement. You know, I don't really like sort of doing composites of two completely different images, but I've photographed down in Kimmeridge so many times that I've got lots of other views, similar views, and you can see the same tower in the background, but this time a much more pleasing sky. And if I go back to my image, what else I wanted to do was end up with something that was black and white. And so sort of this, you know, what I had in mind, but by replacing the sky, and we'll show you how to do that in Photoshop, I could take it from here to here. And so yes, I've still got that smooth sea, but now I've got a much more interesting sky. So to do that, let's jump into Photoshop and get started. So right click on here, edit in Photoshop, and then go to my other image, right click, edit in Photoshop. Okay, so you now can see we've got the two images in Photoshop and two different files. And so the first thing I need to do is essentially make a mask out of this image so that the sky is replaced. And so because we've got such a clear delineation between sky and ground, it's fairly easy to make that selection. And we use the magic wand tool to do it, and you just drag over, and you see it's sort of done half the job here. But if you hold the shift key down, it changes the selection. You can go around your image to do that. So essentially, you know, now what it's done is it's selected everything in the sky, and that, you know, really easy to do. And so what we then want to do with that is mask that off, or mask the ground off. So if we come down here and click the mask button, so it creates a mask, but what it's done is it's masked off the foreground. And so if you've got this open, you can click that to invert, or you can just do Command I, and that will invert where the mask is. So now if I do this the right way around, so we've got the foreground, what it's going to do is take the foreground from this image, and it's going to use any background from another layer that I add to this image. So to do that, if I take my other image and I bring it in, so Command A to select the image, Command C to copy it, go back to the other file, do Command V, and if I drag it below it, so what you can see now is it's put the sky from that image into this image, and I guess what the crops were different on them. So what you can see is the sky runs out unfortunately before the top of the image, but it's not, you know, a huge problem when you're dealing with skies, because you know, no one really knows, you know, whether the shapes of the clouds that you've got are the right shapes or not, because, you know, there is no uniform shape for clouds. So what you can do is, if you do Command T for transform, and then essentially just drag drag the image up, so it just stretches it a bit, and then hide that piece there, and then say, like, you know, click tick and done. You've now replaced the sky with this other sky, which is, you know, far more interesting than the one we had, and looks, you know, much more natural. And I guess, you know, that's the photographer's you know, gift to choose how he wants to, or how one wants to portray what they're seeing. And so here I do want the smooth sea, but I do want the interesting sky, and arguably you could leave it like this, but because think I've got so much strong geometry here, what I'm going to do is take this into a program called Silver EFX Pro, which is an add-on, and there's a link to it in my notes, and that's essentially just got a number of filters and options for doing black and white conversions. So let's do that, but before I do that I need to make a new layer out of these, because Silver EFX Pro will only work on a single layer. So it's Command, Option, Shift and E to create a new layer. Move that to the top, turn off the two layers under it, sorry, move that to the top. Okay, so now we've got a single layer with the sky corrected. And if you've seen previous videos, then you'll see that there's a number of essentially presets here to start with, and I quite often start with something like the full dynamic smooth, which, you know, for me gives me the right amount of contrast in the image. And I suppose one might say I've put a bit of structure back into the water here, so one of the things you can do is put these control points in. So at this point I ramble on for quite a bit longer, fixing various different elements of the image. But to be honest, the point of me showing this video was to do the sky replacement, and I'll show you how easy that was. So hopefully you're now well versed in doing those sky replacements. Don't abuse your new power, obviously, only you know how far is too far. Hope you enjoyed the video, and please subscribe and give me a like, and I'll see you next time. Thank you very much.
Ah.